there have been people that have walked out before, and it amazes me because we're very conscious of making sure that there's something for everybody in our show, and not talking dirty and not talking, over anything sexual is always innuendo. And so when people walk out of the show, I know that it has a lot more to deal with them, to do with them, than it does with us.
And their own issues.
And I always say, like, life is not that serious. Like, when they walk out the door, I'm like, we're men wearing dresses. If you can't laugh at that, if you can't have fun with that, there's a problem. And it's not with us.
It was in chorus class, and there was this kid, and the teacher who was normally there was gone. He was out that day, and there was a sub, and we were just hanging out, and it just escalated. And because there was a sub there, the kid thought he could, get to me, and he started to like slap me in my chair. Like, he came around and like was picking on me, and then started to like slap me in my chair, and it was so bad. Like, I was on the ground, like crying and screaming. And then they brought me to the nurse, of course, and then my mom had to come to the school, and, and after that moment, I didn't go to school for like a month and a half. And it was so horrible. It was like, I had a nervous breakdown. I would wake up every day crying and throwing up, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with him, and, I think he's sick, and it's almost like you can become sick. Like, you can make yourself sick.
You can become physically ill.
Yeah. And they did the worst thing that they could have ever done. They made the bullies come to me and apologize to my face. It was like surprise attack. They're gonna apologize. All four of them on the same day in different times. Like, it was horrible. It was horrible. And they acted like they were my best friend for 2 seconds in front of this woman. And, and that's something that, stays with you, Throughout my high school years, it became easier to cope with bullies and being made fun of. And so, as you get older, you learn how to, just push it aside and forget about it. And
easier is a dangerous word there, because was it easier, or was it that you just learned to kind of numb completely?
I think it was numb. Yeah, I think I learned how to numb the pain.
Yeah.
And try to pretend it wasn't happening anymore. And I feel that because I was picked on so harsh, like it was so harsh, I feel because of that, it put me in the closet more. I was like, I can't be this. I'm not this. I don't want to be this because everyone is labeling me as this, and that's bad. I can't be that,
Here's the problem.
Yeah, the problem is they don't realize what impact they're making on these
The problem is kids don't know. They're doing it because they're insecure. And they're insecure because I believe a lot of that comes from the home. So they're not being given a sense of security at home. So they're lashing out in a way to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just been my coping mechanism for me to deal with it. I think the biggest problem, though, like for me with bullying, was that the adults that knew about it said that it was my fault because of the way I carried myself. So I remember my guidance counselor and my principal at school saying to me and my mom, well, don't carry yourself that way and you won't get made fun of. I was an artistic young kid, and so I was expressing myself through what I was wearing and the activities that I was doing in a way that made me feel like I was expressing my artistry, right?
Yeah, who you were feeling.
Right, exactly, which I think all kids go through, whether you're gay or straight, but because the artistic community from where I grew up doesn't exist, there was no way for those kids to understand what it was that I was doing, so for them it was different and weird. So rather than the adults educating these kids on what's right and wrong and what's acceptable and not acceptable, I was told to just change my behavior. It's hard to think about what I would say to a kid that's being the bully, because I don't think it's their fault. I think that they're insecure and they
have their own struggles that lead them to do that.
Right.
So whether they came from an abusive family or
or whatever,
this, that, and the other.
Whatever. They feel, maybe me being told by my mom, make them laugh before they made fun of you, is the same thing they're doing. Let me make fun of him before I'm made fun of.
By somebody else or whatever,
To me, it's a sad state of affairs for kids, and we're talking now about Stephen and I being kids, and that was a couple years ago. And now it's, it's so much worse than that. And now kids are committing suicide over the bullying, and bullies are bringing guns into school. And, it's, I really believe that it stems from the home first. Because I was raised, wear what you want to wear, be who you want to be, and be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And if somebody else has an issue with it, it's their issue, not yours. And I think if we all had that mentality, bullying wouldn't be as much of a problem, because all these young kids would feel a little bit more secure in themselves.
It's funny because you're always laughing at me because I was brought up, with a heavy Italian culture, and so I'm always like, oh, I'm Italian, and
well,
everything's always Italian.
My perspective of it is that he says everything's Italian. I'm like, well, everyone does that. Like, that's not just Italian.
I'm like, that's what Italian people do. And he's always like, no, that's regular people do that. I'm like, no, but that's what Italians do. Like,
Italians only boarheads deli meat. I'm like, so does half of America.
I think that American men have this tendency to want to be very macho. There's a very, I'm a man and this is how it is. And, it's funny to see family members that are from other places, from other countries in Europe and this and that, and from, South America that I come across. I notice that those men are more willing to be, I'm not going to say flamboyant, but they're more comfortable with their own sexuality. More affectionate, more kissy, more huggy, more touchy-feely with other guys, and it's not sexual, it's just, they're just being, that's, just the way of being. But here we have such a stigma about what it is to be male and what it is to be female that I think it's so this is, box A is what a man is and box B is what a female is. And so now there's this whole breed of men that are, I'm very manly and I'm like this, and it's almost very fake. It's almost like...
Well, it's macho as drag.
Yeah.
True. Oh my God, that's so smart.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's so smart.
So,
Very smart.
we're all drag queens.
Well,
in one way or another.
Yeah.
In many ways.
I remember my mom one time sticking up for me when I was young to some of these kids that were making fun of me, because she would, I remember one of her picking me up one time or something where she came into a situation where I was being made fun of.
Uh-huh.
And being the oldest, I have a younger brother, being the older brother in a single parent home with my mom, I took on a lot of roles that maybe young boys don't. And I remember her saying to these guys making fun of me, these kids, he's more masculine than you'll ever be. And he's more of a man than you'll ever be.
Wow.
And I feel that way about drag, because it's a really scary thing for me to dress up like this. And again, we perform in a lot of places that are not gay owned and operated.
Yeah.
So to step out into the local bar, the watering hole, with all these straight men that are watching sports at the sports bar, and know that I have probably about 1 minute and 30 seconds
to win them over.
Mm-hmm. Or it turns into Boys Don't Cry. So I'm very insecure about it. And Steven is really good. He will go right out there and go right up to people and, hi honey, how are you? What are you doing here? We're gonna play bingo. Here's the con. How you doing? We're doing a show. You're gonna love it. And I have a really hard time with it. And you know what? Actually, it's not even with the straight crowd. It's even with gay people that come in that we don't know. I have a hard time with it because I guess it comes from being bullied and made fun of. So
I don't know why I'm comfortable with it. I actually have this theory, I guess, that when I'm gonna push it down your throat. I'm going to be Gina Marie. I am gonna be so female that you.
Speaking of being Hillary Swanked.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna I have that theory. I'm gonna be Gina Marie to you. You're gonna believe me so well that I am this woman and I'm portraying this lady that you're gonna forget that I am a man in a dress.
Yeah.
And so that's my approach to it every time. My approach is, I'm gonna talk to you like I am this character, and I am this woman, and you're gonna believe it. You know, and that's how I always, I just put aside
That's
the
acting.
idea. It's acting, people. People, that's acting. I should win an Academy Award.